Meeting to order. Tonight is Monday, November 17th, 2014. We're here for the purpose of the regular meeting of the Elmhurst City Council. I'm going to ask Cub Scout Pack 23, Den 6, and any of their helpers they have to please come to the front of the room and lead us in the Pledge of the Flag, Pledge of Allegiance. I would ask everyone please stand. Right over here, gentlemen. Can we get a good look at you? All right, wait for your helpers. All right, kick it off, guys. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good job. Thanks, everybody, and helpers. Really appreciate it. Nice job, man. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask you to call the roll to establish quorum.
Gutenkopf.
Here.
Deuter.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Leader.
Here.
Volumsky.
Here.
Brand.
Here.
Toludo.
Here.
York.
Here.
Levin.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Honquist.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
14 present, 0 absent.
14 present, 0 absent. We have a quorum. On to agenda item 3.1. Receipt of written communications from the public. At this time, is there anybody in the audience who has any written communication they wish to submit to the council at this time? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 4.1, public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the city council on any matter they so choose. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes out of respect for other folks who may want to speak and also out of respect for the meeting that we have to conduct this evening. If you do go over 3 minutes, I will give you a gentle reminder and ask you to wrap it up. At this time, Clerk Spencer, is there anybody who has signed up for public forum?
Yes, we have Claude Pagash, 566 West Gladys.
Oh, I would ask, once you're recognized, please go to the appropriate microphone where Mr. Pagash is headed. Identify yourself, and as is our new custom, address is not required, but if you feel you can share it with us. Mr. Pagash, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Claude Pagash, 566 West Gladys. I enjoyed the last meeting. Really did. It's coming to the end of the year. Must be money left in budgets. We're buying cars. I thought that was all over and done with. But needless to say, there's money left to buy some more cars. And trucks, by the way. And then the city manager brought up the fact about Hahn. We got partners there, I've been told. They have a problem with a contract. It's amazing. The city writes a contract, holds it like a sieve. Independent individual writes a contract, it's solid design. Can't change one thing. Amazing, isn't it? Yes, indeed. All that endless money. And then Hahn comes up. Isn't that just wonderful? We got somebody that's going to develop it, but here on the agenda last week, we're going to move a utility. I assume that individual that we've got a contract with had never looked at it. So we start out now, and I guess this is going to go on and on. We're going to move the electric, and then we're going to move the gas lines. We're going to tear down a gas station. And then the EPA is going to come in and be your friend again. And after you guys dig out all the soil that they want excavated, they'll have a completely excavated site. Why are the residents of this town paying for this? You either have a developer or you don't. You didn't show them a prairie. It's in the heart of the town. Let alone, again, you're going to vote on it tonight. As one of the aldermen said, we don't even have a contract with these bozos. But already they're digging into the pocket of the city. my pocket. Then I found one really interesting thing. An alderman was frustrated. City had gone to the Park District and pleaded their case, and he couldn't quite understand why Park District didn't want to go along with it. Well, join the crowd. That's exactly how the majority of us feel when we come to these meetings. And for him, he was lucky, because he presents questions and at least got an answer. He may not have liked it, but he got an answer.
Mr. Pagash, I'd ask you to wrap up.
For the residents that do come to these meetings, they continue to ask, and they continue to be told, we don't have the time to answer you.
Next, we have Tamara Brenner.
Tamara Brenner. So I'm a little curious about what's going on with the bidding out of projects, in particular with the city-related development projects of Addison Garage and the Han Street. There's 3 items on tonight's agenda that are related to bidding. Just as a baseline, item 6.12 is a issuance of a notice of award for a facility fuel island canopy project. That project garnered 4 bids under a competitive bidding process, which seems kind of like the normal sort of way things go with bidding. But related to the Addison Garage and also to the Han Street private overhead utility relocation, there seems to be a real low number of competitive bids coming in. The utility relocation project, if I understand it correctly, was bid out twice. The first time there were no bids received, and the second time only 1 bid was received, which seems really curious because that's a pretty sizable project, I thought. And then item 6, and that's item 613. Item 6.3 is the bid for concrete foundation of the parking garage. And again, that's only received 1 bid, and actually received 0 bids for part of it because they wanted to put a deep foundation and nobody bid on that. So now we're changing the way the foundation is going to be built, and we only got 1 competitive bid for, or 1 bid for that was a redoing of the bid for the 1 bidder that came in with the rest of the work. And the reason that we have to go with this now is we're in a time crunch because we've got the prefab on the way, and now we've got to get this foundation in a time situation. I'm kind of curious why the bid for the foundation work wasn't put out back in August or September when the bid for prefab went out. So now we're in this kind of forced, artificially created time crunch. So I'm wondering if there's an explanation why there are so few competitive bidders for projects related to these, or for pieces of these projects. It's not just these ones, there's other ones for Addison Garage in particular where there's very few bids coming in on several of the pieces of the project. Thanks.
That's all that signed in, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, that's it for everyone who signed in. Is there anybody in the audience who did not have an opportunity to sign up on our sign-in sheet but wishes to address the council? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll move on. Announcements. Any announcements from the dais? Alderman York.
Thank you, Your Honor. As a final reminder, Alderman Toledo and I are going to hold a Ward 4 meeting this coming Wednesday night at 7 o'clock at the Elmhurst Historical Museum Education Center, located just to the south of the museum. All 4th Ward residents and Elmhurst residents, for that matter, are invited to attend. Thank you.
Alderman Dunn.
Continuing with town hall meetings, Alderman Leader and I will be having one also on December 4th for the 2nd Ward. It will be held at the Fire Station number 1 up on North York in the basement at 7:30 p.m. And all are welcome. In addition to that, I just want to take time to thank some of our football players yesterday at York High School. They participated in our senior chore days, and we had about 20 football players went out into the community to several different homes and bagged over 50 bags of leaves for our senior citizen residents, and a great group of kids very willing to help out, and that was really good to see. them doing these things for the seniors in our community. So thanks to our senior commission for organizing that and to our participants yesterday. Thank you.
Okay. Any other announcements? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda, agenda item 6. At this time, is there anything on the consent agenda that anybody wishes to have removed, to further comment to, or vote no? Alderman Braham.
6.7.
6.7. Anything else anybody wishes to have? Alderman Gutenkopf.
6.3.
Sorry?
6.3.
6.3. Any other agenda item on the consent agenda that anyone wishes to see removed? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 6.3 and 6.7. Motion by Alderman Deuter, second by Alderman York. Clerk Spencer.
Deuter.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mullenor.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Saludo.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays, motion passes. Consent agenda is approved minus items 6.3 and 6.7. 6.3 is a report of Public Works, and Clerk Spencer had asked that you read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Works and Buildings Committee that the original bids be rejected, the competitive bidding process be waived, and that the revised proposal from Martin Cement Company, including both the concrete and foundation scopes of work, including excavation, in total amount of $1,680,000, be accepted, and the city attorney be authorized to prepare a resolution approving a contract with Martin Cement Company. Signed by Jim Kennedy, Chairman, Michael J. Braham, Diane Gutenkopf, unsigned by Chris Healy.
Okay, to put this before the council, I will ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Kennedy, second by Alderman Healy. Alderman Kennedy, this is a report out of your committee. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to defer to Alderman Gutenkopf who pulled the report.
Alderman Gutenkopf, you had this pulled.
I did. I did think that the question of why we weren't receiving bids and what sort of happened in the foundation redesign was a good question, and that we probably ought to answer it here on the dais because this is such an important project, and I'm hoping that Alderman Kennedy would take the ball from me.
Fair enough.
Okay, there's the setup, Alderman Kennedy. A little unusual on the bidding process. Please enlighten us.
Right back at you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly, this is an important part of the project because if you don't have a foundation, you really don't have much of a building. So we put out to bid the concrete portion and the foundation. As stated, we had one bid back for concrete, and we did not have any bids back for the foundation work. It's really a matter of fact that there's a lot of building going on in the Chicago area, and although there's quite a few capable companies out there, there's clearly not many of them that were interested in doing this work, whether it was the timeline or whether it was the scope of work. The fact of the matter is, we didn't really have too many people back. We had one guy for the concrete work. So, given the fact we did not have anyone for the foundation and kind of taking a step back from the Arco Murray side, they initially did what they called a deep foundation design. And as they were going further into that, and let me take a step back. The reason they did that was based on the footprint of the building. They were basically talking about going deeper and thicker to be able to create the foundation for the building. And looking back on it and understanding the engineering and the cost, they took another look at it and decided they could actually increase the footprint of the foundation, not go as deep, and be able to realize some cost savings by making that adjustment in the design. And so that was that decision was made. As staff looked at the the concrete work and the unit price on there, they felt that that unit price applied to the foundation was a fair price, worked with Arco Murray to do that. They came and presented that to us last Monday, and we all agreed and therefore signed the report. So if that's an overview. Thank you.
Alderman Healy, you wish to add?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for the record, I was not present at last Monday's meeting. That's why I did not sign the report. Had I been at the meeting, I would have signed the report.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this item that's been pulled? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Spencer to please call the roll.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Conquist.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Deludo.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 6.3 is approved. On to agenda item 6.7, a report out of Public Affairs and Safety. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Affairs and Safety Committee that the city attorney be directed to prepare the appropriate ordinance for the installation of stop signs at the approaches to Eggleston Avenue at both Parkside and Mitchell Avenues. Signed by Patrick Wagner, Chairman, Norman Leader, Vice Chairman, Michael Honquist.
To put this before the council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Wagner, second by Alderman Leader. Alderman Wagner, this is out of your committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will defer to Alderman Bram.
Alderman Bram, you pulled this. You have a question or comment?
Yes, sir, thank you. As my fellow council members know, I'm very passionate when it comes to any and all traffic control devices. When looking at this report, this recommendation, my concern was that this very intersection, and I would call it the corridor in this area, has been reviewed on multiple occasions. One of the timeframes that it was reviewed was back in 2008. Back in 2008, the recommendation from our consultant was to, I don't know if it was to add the yield signs or to maintain the current yield signs at this intersection. From the latest report and therefore recommendation, I do see there's been a couple of accidents. In the 5-year span, in the 2008 report that I referenced, there were 0 accidents. The line of sight for both of these intersections are above average, I would say, according to the box report that the city staff and consultant utilizes. The distance, anything, I think, between 70 feet and 110 feet from a sight distance perspective would warrant the consideration of yield signs and yield signs only. Anything above 110 feet would warrant the consideration of more severe, more restrictive traffic control devices like a stop sign. Since really nothing has changed since the 2008 evaluation, the sight lines are still just the same. The accidents have increased 2, I think, in 3 years, I think the recommendation says, but I think if you look at from 2004, when the 2008 report was done, until 2014, according to my records and the data that I received from city staff, there's been 2 accidents in approximately 10 years. According to the MUTC guidelines, that doesn't warrant an increase to stop signs at this intersection. Both of these intersections, on one side or the other, is a cul-de-sac, so it's not even a through street, at least on one side of the intersection. Both are dead end on one of the sides, either north or south. So it's limited from a traffic standpoint. So for those reasons, I don't, unless the committee explains to me what has changed since the 2008 evaluation, where the very same consultant recommended yield signs, why would we be moving in the direction of increasing stricter control on those 2 intersections?
Okay. Alderman Wagner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The committee discussed, Alderman Bram, the original request to have that evaluated, that intersection evaluated. The result of that was some the yield signs being put in. Shortly after that, there was some issue with the accident, and then they took yields and reevaluated, and they put stop signs in at Parkside. That was just about 12 months ago, I think, a little bit longer. Prospect, pardon me, thank you, Alderman Healy, excuse me. Because then, once the stop signs went in, there was some discussion around that from some other residents, and we had some additional requests from other residents. And I did receive a note from Brent Coulter today, and he did use the MUTCD, and it does allow for him to use professional judgment in traffic engineering, and made the current recommendation for the stop signs at Mitchell and Parkside because the site constraints at Parkside and are within consistency and expectations within that corridor. I think you alluded to the corridor term. So we sided with the consultant on this occasion. The second occasion that this was evaluated, however, was only staff evaluated. It never actually came to the committee for a discussion. It was more of a FYI. So we didn't have a chance to talk about it then. But typically, and I do understand your passion for the traffic control devices in Elmhurst, we have made decisions that are outside of the MUTC guidelines, and but we do like to stay within them, and Brent certainly understands that and provided an ample definition and I think reason to actually put the stop signs up.
Okay. Any other comments? Alderman Deuter?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify, we heard that there was an evaluation in 2008, and Alderman Wagner mentioned the evaluation done by staff in October of 2013, which was, I think, brought to committee, but there was not discussion, because at the time in 2013, staff had looked at the intersection and determined that there had been no changes since the 2008 study, and therefore they were not recommending any changes in the signage. So now a year later, we're looking at this same intersection again. In my opinion, neither the consultant's report nor any supporting materials makes the case that a change has occurred since 2008. And while we certainly need to be responsive to residents' needs, I think we also need to prioritize staff time, committee time, and consultant resources. I don't feel that looking at the same situation 3 separate times within a 6-year period makes good sense. I think the conclusions reached in 2008 and 2013 were sound ones, and I will continue to agree with the previous opinions rather than the one put forth tonight.
Okay. Any other comments? Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you call the roll.
Wagner.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
No.
DeLudo.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Onquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
No.
Deuter.
No.
Dunn.
Aye.
11 ayes, 3 nays.
11 ayes, 3 nays, motion passes. Agenda item 6.7 is approved. On to reports and recommendations of appointed elected officials. Mayor Morley, I'll keep this short, keeping in mind that we have a budget meeting following this. Just a quick follow-up to City Council. As City Council is aware, we did receive a response to our request from the Park District on allowing us to use certain portions of their property. And so I think the City Council's up to speed on what the Park District came back with. I did, actually, City Manager Grabowski and I both did construct a letter and send it to Jim Rogers, President Ubriaco, and the rest of the board, asking them to reconsider the east lobe of York Commons. We sent that letter to them last Thursday. We were hoping it would get on the agenda, their agenda for further discussion this Wednesday. But we've been informed by the Park District there's not enough time for them to review the letter and I guess vet the information that's in there. So they will not be discussing it at their meeting this Wednesday, and they said they would get back to us and let us know when it's on the agenda. That's my update. City Manager Grabowski.
Thank you. One item. Today we kind of kicked off the strategic planning process with the department directors and the consultant. This afternoon we had a good in-depth discussion regarding issues in the community. Next step will be to gather names for our focus groups from the aldermen. So look for that email this week, asking for recommendations on focus group participants. And then we'll get further information on the meeting with the city council within the new year shortly.
Okay, any other reports? Alderman Bram?
Yes, nothing out of the unusual for my request to have a report on both the Paragon development progress as well as the RDA for the Han Street development.
Sure. Okay, as it relates to Paragon, things weren't moving along as fast as I think we had all hoped, so I actually put in a call to the developers who own the property, and they came in, I met with them last Tuesday or Wednesday of last week. And there had been a restructuring with their anchor tenant at the executive level, which resulted in separate requests back from LA Fitness for them to make some specific changes in their contract that they had already structured with them. I know they've been back and forth, call it a negotiation, but back and forth with LA Fitness. And as of last, I want to say Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, the developer had agreed to all of the changes that LA Fitness was looking for. So they had sent that contract back to LA Fitness, and I know they're in a waiting game right now, but things had changed. Call it the playing field had changed between the developer and the tenant. The tenant was requesting something different. They've gotten together, and it's my understanding they've agreed upon their requested changes, and they're waiting to hear back. So that's the Paragon update.
In regards to the Paragon, could you also speak to the condition of the property, the proposed demolition of the property, and
Yes, I did talk to them as well. There is a fence up around the property as we speak. I know that I had expressed to them that even though there was a fence, the condition, overgrown weeds, et cetera, isn't something that we like to see, and we would like them to clean it up. They indicated that they actually have a maintenance company that is supposed to maintain it. And at that meeting, I requested that city staff be allowed to tour the site with the maintenance company so that city staff could point out all the things we want cleaned up before the demo would happen, while we wait for this contract thing to be hammered out. I believe that tour is supposed to take place Wednesday, Tuesday? Tomorrow. So I think Assistant City Manager Kopp is going to be taking a tour with their representative, showing them where we need them to clean it up. In addition, they said that as soon as the contract is finalized, they've got their demo people ready to go, and within 2 weeks of the contract being finalized, they will be demoing the remainder of the property. That's the Paragon update. City Manager Grabowski?
Yeah, regarding the RDA with Morningside, I think within the last week and a half, we had a meeting with all the principals of Morningside, along with city staff, to work out any of the issues that were remaining in the RDA. Right now, it's going back and forth between the attorneys on the next draft, and as soon as that's ready, we'll be sending it to committee for review and consideration. We hope that's within the next couple, before the end of the calendar year.
Okay. Any other reports or recommendations? Seeing none, we'll move on to other. Alderman Deuter.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry to be late to ask this question. This is actually in response to what City Manager Grabowski just said. Will the redevelopment agreement, when it's ready, go to one committee for a close review, or will that come to all of us at the same time?
We had anticipated sending that to the Development Planning and Zoning Committee.
Okay, Alderman Bram.
Not to, I don't know, not to beat the subject to death here, but wouldn't such a large and important issue like the RDA, wouldn't that be more beneficial to have that opened up to the full city council versus following the committee process, I guess?
It's certainly a possibility, but in the past, including the hospital, and even bigger projects, went through zoning and plan, DP&Z, so that's, what city manager and I discussed, and that's the route we're gonna take. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, other business, any other business? All right, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Alderman Levin, second by Alderman Palomsky, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned, 5 minutes for the, budget, committee of the whole.